They've changed a lot of the atmosphere, the flow of this weekend cruise. But as they continue building Oasis Class ships, they also make improvements to the overall ship design. Everybody, it's Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, where I go on a weekend cruise just about every weekend, and I am back from my first sailing on board Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. And so when I'm walking around this ship, I am noticing what is different. Whether they're good or they're bad, we're going to talk about some of the changes and let you decide how you feel about them. The first thing we're going to go through is the food. They continue to evolve the food on board Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. Central Park is the place that I noticed this the most. Central Park is my absolute favorite place on an Oasis Class ship. It's outdoors, it's got this garden, it's just such a nice airy feel to it. But they have removed vintages. So if you are a wine connoisseur, a wine drinker, vintages does not exist anymore on Utopia of the Seas. The trade-off here is that they now have expanded izumi. So if you like hibachi, if you like sushi, it is a much larger area that it now takes up. So you're going to have a dedicated sushi area and a dedicated hibachi area up in Central Park. You're also going to find izumi to go. So if you wanted to just grab and go with some sushi, you can certainly do that as well. They're trying to make the outside of Central Park more of a dining experience, which I actually kind of appreciated. The izumi to go, I think, is a really cool concept, and they weren't charging that much for the actual sushi that was there. The one thing that I wanted to try and I resisted because I'm scared if I get it, I'll get it every time I go on Utopia of the Seas, but that is the bubble cones that you can get there. And it's an ice cream fish kind of cone, which I've had on land. They've got some in Miami by Wynwood, but I have not done it on a ship yet, and just because I don't want to do it every cruise. Coming down to the Royal Promenade, you're going to find that they also switched out the Bionic Bar, which I think was a really good move. This was a place that was not popular. You couldn't use your drink package there. You couldn't use any of your Diamond and Higher vouchers. People would use it once. It's a novelty thing. It took forever. It's good that it's gone. I think this was a great enhancement that Royal Caribbean made, and they've now replaced it with the pesky parrot. And this is actually a really cool concept. So if you've been to the Mexican bars that have like the dollar bills on the signs, you've got parrots, you've got wood exposed, you've got margarita machines, you're going to find all that at the pesky parrot. And it really does give you that Caribbean feel. The bird, the parrot there, even talks a little bit. They've got LED screens that are in motion and moving, so it's a really neat interactive kind of experience. And quite frankly, I hung out there twice. It is a really good venue. But the hottest ticket item on board Utopia of the Seas is Utopia Station, located on deck 4 aft. And this is one I couldn't even get into to video it, you all. Like, they kept the door closed most of the time, and when it opened, as soon as it opened, I was like, hey, would you mind if I just quickly get in there and shoot a little, just a quick clip of what it looks like? And they were like, absolutely not. And so I was able to get some footage of, the outside of it and welcoming some people onto the train for Utopia Station, but I wasn't able to get inside of it. And I've heard, even if you do get the ability to dine inside of it, you really can't take pictures. They are very tough on pictures and photography. It is a hot ticket because they only serve 238 people per night. And people that go there seem to really rave about it. They enjoy it. But there's 5,000 people on this ship, right? If there's only 238 they can sit, you've got to really try to get tickets for it. I don't even have good advice on how to get those tickets, but there were some people that went the non-correct way to get tickets, I'll say, and they almost lost their reservation because they hadn't done it correctly. So just be careful when you are booking those reservations that you are doing it the correct way. Keep checking and checking often. And this one's going to disappoint a lot of folks that they removed it. I say a lot of folks, maybe that many people didn't even know that it existed, but they removed the Vitality Cafe. This was something that I always enjoyed because I knew that they had an espresso machine. You could get fresh juices. They had protein drinks. They would have creatine, all that kind of stuff you could get at the Vitality Cafe, especially went to the gym, you come out, boom, your protein shake is right there. It was a great experience. And they have completely removed it. They actually didn't even put anything else here. I don't know if they turned it into staterooms or storage, but you just walk into the gym now or into the spa area. You're gonna have your hair salon on the left, you're gonna have your spa services on the right, and your gym in the left-hand corner with no Vitality at Sea. Or Vitality Cafe, which really disappoints me, but know that that's not gonna impact too terribly many people. You'll also notice with Vitality Cafe leaving, they've reduced the number of espresso machines that they have on board the ship. You used to get this in multiple places. Now the only 2 machines that I found were at Cafe Promenade, in addition to Giovanni's has one. So if you want to go to the Italian restaurant in the evenings, you can also get an espresso drink there. If you want to pay for espresso, you can still go to Starbucks, but your drink package and diamond benefits do not work at the standalone Starbucks. And the coffee and tea dispensers, let's talk about these a little bit. In the Windjammer and in Cafe Promenade, they've got touch-free dispensers now. So you put your cup up and it just starts filling it with whatever that dispenser serves. A lot of people don't know how to use this. They didn't seem to work too well, but I just don't know where the coffee comes from. Like, it's dispensing coffee, but fountain coffee just seems kind of weird to me. So let me know in the comments if you know where the coffee comes from, because this really concerned me for some reason. Now, let's talk about the second area a lot of people are looking at for Utopia of the Seas, and that is the theater shows. So, or just the shows in general, I should say. We'll separate the theater out. The first one I want to talk about is the theater, though, and they decided not to have a Broadway show on board Utopia of the Seas, at least just yet, while it's doing weekends. And I think that is a wonderful move. We, as weekend cruisers, don't necessarily want to sit through a 2 to 3 hour production show when we are only here for 3 days. It's too much. We want to get in, we want to get out, have a heavy hitting show, and Royal Caribbean is actually delivering on this. It's one of the best shows I think Royal Caribbean has, and it is called All In. The reason I say it's one of the best shows is, number one, it is only 45 minutes. But even though it may not be a Broadway show, they kept the same cast size that it takes to execute a Broadway show. And so you've got like 30 people on this stage, all dancing, all doing choreography, amazing singers. They've got really strong talent that honestly probably could do a Broadway show if the ship ever moves. And they said, okay, now we're going to bring Mamma Mia on here. I think this cast could absolutely do that. They've also enhanced the stage, which is my favorite thing. And I've given Royal a lot of grief here because MSC and their older ships has been showing up Royal Caribbean, in my opinion. But on this ship, the LED screen, the lighting setup, the stage dynamics that they have was amazing. Like, they've done a really, really good job here. And you leave the show feeling energized and ready to go party and do things. So it was really, really good. You're also going to have an ice skating show on here, which is brand new to Royal Caribbean, called, what is it called? I wrote it down here. It is called Utopia, Y-O-U-Topia. And it's a traditional ice skating show, but again, the biggest theme that I can say that they changed throughout Utopia of the Seas is the lighting and the projection. So they've still got the same setup in Studio B for the ice skating show, but this one has projectors that are throwing on really neat, lifelike kind of projections onto the rink that they can skate on, that can create different elements. It makes it more of an immersive style experience, similar to the theater show, which I really enjoyed. And let me go back to the theater for a second. I forgot to mention, they changed the chairs in the theater. Small thing, I know, right? But they've now given them, you know, in a car, you can have bucket seats. It almost feels like you're sitting in a bucket seat. They come back and they kind of curve around your back to cradle you some, and they sit really well. That is definitely a complaint I've had on some other ships. The seats are old, they don't sit well. These seats were super comfortable. So I would be, actually, if they ever do put a Broadway show on here for 3 hours, I'd be fine sitting in that chair. Like, it was, I enjoyed the chair. One of the changes they made to the casino, and I kind of understand why they did this. On other Oasis Class ships, you have 2 hallways going from Entertainment Place on the 4th floor leading around to the casino. They have actually removed one of those. So there's only one hallway now going from the aft section of the ship to the forward section of the ship and connecting the casino. Totally get why they did it. The other hallway on the other ships is kind of wasted space. It's just a really long hallway that nobody really uses. And so they've gone down to just one where the Park West Gallery is. And I think that that was a smart move. It does make the casino feel a little bit more crowded. Granted, there's a ton of casino players because it is a solid weekend cruise, but it is a packed casino. The one hallway doesn't create too much of a change, but I think it does add to how full it feels in the casino. They've also changed the entertainment on board Utopia of the Seas. So in addition to the theater shows, what I mean is when they're doing their shows in, let's say, the Royal Promenade, so you're doing the 80s party, they amp up the volume. So it is a loud ship. So that is one of the things that they have done to change the atmosphere, is it's loud. It's, you know, one of the biggest comments that I heard was, wow, it's loud here. Is it always this loud? And yeah, it is a loud ship. They've done that to increase the energy, and I think that it's been done intentionally. I personally don't mind it because I know that you can go to the solarium, you can go other places to get out of that. But if you're where there's music, it is going to be a little bit louder for you. They're also going to focus in on the large parties. So one of the big changes they made from other weekends, even on Allure of the Seas, is they have just one big party in Studio B. This is where you bring everybody together, throw them on this massive dance floor slash ice skating rink that is covered, and you party the night away. They do this every single night on a weekend cruise with Utopia of the Seas. And I think that it's great. It gives people a place that they can go and really enjoy themselves and have fun. So you're going to have the rendezvous party on Friday night. You're going to have the red party on Saturday night. And then on Sunday, you're going to have the hush silent disco, which I think is a really good lineup and ends with the easier, if you will, of the big parties. Because the last night of the cruise, you probably don't want to go as hard as you have been those other 2 nights. Some smaller updates that they made here is they changed the way that you call an elevator. You would think that this wouldn't be that big of a deal for people, but it seems to confuse and create a lot of questions for people on how do the elevators work? They work the exact same way they've always worked. You press the button and it's going to tell you what elevator is going to come and pick you up. So it is a lot better at spacing people out. Elevators will still fill up, especially if a show just let out or dinner is letting out, but it is a better user experience and hopefully a more efficient experience because it can kind of know where everybody's going versus you get on the elevator and then it knows where you're going. It knows in advance, so it can, the algorithm, the computer algorithm can make different decisions for you. The one thing I found interesting here is if you press the handicap button on the elevator panel, it doesn't actually make the elevators go slower. I would have thought that it was with somebody for mobility issues, but it appeared to me to be more for visually impaired individuals. You press the mobility button, it then gives you a really large screen to choose from or select the room that you're going to, assuming that you could not see it as well. And then it's also going to give you a ding in addition to just lighting up the elevator that you need to go to. You're going to hear it calling you. Though the elevator does not open slower or close slower, it does the same thing that it does. So if you're in a mobility device or you're slower moving, that is not going to slow it down for you, which I think is a missed opportunity. And the last thing that I noticed here, and this one I actually really did like, is you all know that I collect the ship models. I've not recorded from my dining room in a while where I keep all of them on display, but I'm a huge fan of my ship models, and they have changed the maker of these ship models. So they are now coming out of Vietnam. I do not know if this is fleet-wide. This is the first one out of the, I don't know, 29 Royal Caribbean ship models that I have. This is the first one that's come from Vietnam. The packaging, you automatically see that it's a higher end product, which I like. The prices keep going up on it, but this one felt a lot more solid and sturdy, and it was packed beautifully in the box that it came in. Some of the old ones, you always have to check the ship models to make sure that they're not cracked or busted because they're not packed too well. This one, there is going to be minimal damage, if any, because it doesn't have room to move and it's well cushioned. So I'm sure that I missed some things, guys. Like, I was on the ship for a weekend. I'm going back in just a couple of weeks, so I will come back to you and let you know if I find anything else that has changed. But let me know in the comments if I forgot to mention something changed on Utopia Seas. They changed, whether it's the atmosphere, changed something on the ship that I didn't call out. This is just my opinion or my thoughts on everything that changed. All right, everybody, this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser. Hoping to see you on a weekend cruise soon. And if you want to join me, I'm actually on a group cruise now with everybody. They're all at Coco Cay right now enjoying. Go down and sign up for the group cruise newsletter below to stay up to date on everywhere we are going and how you can join the Weekend Cruiser.